Okay, let's just all take one big, deep breath. MLB's trade deadline is officially over, and the St. Louis Cardinals did indeed trade the 3 players we all thought they would, and nothing more. Welcome back to Cardinal Territory. I'm your host, Katie Wu. Let's break down the last 48 hours. They were big. In case you missed it, Ryan Helsley went to the New York Mets, Steven Matz to the Boston Red Sox, and John Mozeliak trade deadline tradition unlike any other. Phil Maton went to the Texas Rangers minutes before that 5 p.m. Central Time deadline. 1 minute and 8 seconds to be exact is what he told us. Mo does a buzzer beater at the deadline every year, so at least he's going out on a consistent note. St. Louis landed 6 total prospects in return. If you need a refresher, I got you. Shortstop Jesus Baez and right-handers Nate Dome and Frank Elisalt went to St. Louis in exchange for Ryan Helsley. That trade went down Wednesday afternoon. Baez entered the season listed as the Mets' 7th-ranked prospect and Dome at number 17 per the Athletics' Keith Law. All 3 prospects in this trade were playing for the Mets' High A affiliate, and all 3 will join High A Peoria. I believe they were all added to that roster Thursday morning. Blaze Jordan, a corner infielder in AAA, was the lone return for Steven Matz. He has an .820 OPS with 6 homers and 11 doubles over 44 games after being promoted midway through the season. Jordan was added to AAA Memphis's roster on Thursday. Obviously, there's a connection here with Boston. Chaim Bloom, well-versed with that farm system after spending 4 seasons as the Red Sox chief baseball officer. That clearly went into play with this deal. For Phil Maton, the Cardinals landed minor league pitching prospects Mason Molina, no relation to Yadier, and Skylar Hales plus international bonus pool money. Molina's a left-hander. He's 22 years old. He's made 18 appearances, 17 starts in high A ball this year. He has a 3.41 ERA with 92 strikeouts over 74 innings, so that's intriguing. Hales is a righty. He was the Rangers' 4th-round pick in 2023. He struggled between Double and AAA this year, has a 7.64 ERA over 34 games, but the Cardinals will need to backfill their depth in Memphis, and per MLB Pipeline, these are 2 top 30 prospects in the Rangers organization. So landing that for a 2-month rental plus bonus pool money, that gives me an initial feeling that this is a good trade for St. Louis. Again, that trade went down minutes before the deadline, so we are still configuring what exactly that return looks like. Here's my disclaimer, you guys. I'm no prospect expert. We can go off rankings, but rankings are subjective, and each publication, whether it's The Athletic, MLB Pipeline, Baseball America, they all do a fantastic job. They all evaluate minor league systems and prospects differently. Also, team rankings vary by organization. What I do know, it will likely be years before we can truly evaluate if these trades panned out for St. Louis, which brings me to my next point. John Mozeliak held a Zoom call with reporters. He was coming from his office at Busch Stadium. Most of us are in San Diego for the 3-game series that begins on Friday. And he gave us a rundown of the deadline in which he said the long-term view was the priority. The Cardinals did not want to sell. It's clear that their play in July made this the most sensible solution. This is what they should have done, even though it's not a popular choice, even though it's disheartening. It's disappointing. It's a disappointing day for the organization. There's no way around that. But the hope is that if we look back at this day, many years ahead, that it was ultimately got the organization on the right foot, trending in the right direction as they look to rebuild their player development system and bolster their farm system. We knew that was the priority for the organization going into the season. So here's what Mo had to say about the deadline, his final deadline as the Cardinals president of baseball operations. He said, the goal of this trading deadline was about the future. And I don't think it's necessarily about the immediate future. It's about the long-term view of the St. Louis Cardinals. What does that mean? It means the Cardinals targeted the best available minor league talent that they could get for 3 rentals, and they did not covet major league or knocking on the door major league ready talent. The Cardinals went into this deadline trying to move their expiring contracts. We know that. We knew that they were going to move Helsley, Maton, and Matz. The only question was, what would they be able to get for 3 rentals, knowing that the relief market really kind of blew up because there was no frontline starting pitcher available. So most contending teams elected to bolster their bullpen. You look at what the Mets did in their super bullpen. You look at what the Padres did, adding Mason Miller from the A's. Like, that was a crazy move. So there was a demand for relievers, but at the end of the day, they are all 3 rentals. So that is going to play into the return. Mo said the goal of these moves, I'm quoting him here, was to position the organization for future talent, not necessarily just guys that are knocking on the door for big league opportunities next year. It was really about trying to create as much prospect value as possible, and we felt we achieved that. Again, it's going to take a long time before we see if these panned out for the Cardinals. I will say, to me, this deadline is a much different from when the Cardinals sold in 2023. Yes, in 2023, the Cardinals also only traded players on expiring deals, same as this year. But what they targeted in 2023 was pitching depth, specifically in the upper minor league system and soon to be major league ready talent. And the reason that they did that in 2023, the reason why that the front office looked for that specifically in a return, was because they wanted to return to contention soon. They wanted to compete in 2024. They thought maybe they could get away one more year of building a team possibly good enough to contend for a wild card spot and maybe get in. They wanted to avoid a rebuild. This year, they have seemed to acknowledge that that is not going to be possible. They went and they got a ton of high A guys. Blaze Jordan is the only one in AA or above right now. We'll see where those two Rangers prospects slot in. But like Mo said, the goal was to acquire the top talent they could get, not necessarily players that would come in and immediately help the organization or look to 2026. That to me signals that this is going to be, and we talked about it on the show before, a multi-year transition. And the point of the 2025 year was to see how long this reset, call it what it is, it's a rebuild, would take. The Cardinals seem resigned to the fact that this is going to be a multi-year project, and Chaim Bloom will have his work cut out for him as he takes over the organization come this offseason. It's disappointing, but I think it's refreshing that the organization had this honest assessment after multiple seasons of trying to skate by and trying to just kind of compete, but not really acknowledge the major problems in their player development system. So is it disappointing that the Cardinals look to, they won't be competing for the rest of the year? 2026 might be similar to this year. Yeah, of course. But when you're looking at the long-term view, like the organization did, I think this was the right call. Plenty more to discuss about the trade deadline, what Mo did, what he didn't. We'll get into why he decided not to trade his position players or players with multiple years of control. First, though, a quick message from our sponsor, Superpower.
Kratz, at some point, we're going to laugh about how healthcare was so reactive and not proactive. And we're starting to change that with Superpower. They believe every human has 100+ year potential, and they're here to help you get there. I'm a big believer in this. I just started the journey, so I'm excited about it. And what do you think?
As a player, you're always looking ways to improve yourself, improve your health. And this is an easy way. Superpower's made it way easier than when I was playing. You had to go get all these lab panels, and it was a long, drawn-out, expensive process. But now with Superpower, so this is awesome for me. I'm excited about it.
They'll send a licensed professional to your home, or you can visit a nearby lab. For a limited time, the FT fam can get $50 off an annual Superpower membership by using code FOUL at checkout. Just head to superpower.com and use code FOUL to get our exclusive discount. Your biology decoded, your blueprint activated with Superpower. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, and please support FT and tell them we sent you.
So in his press conference with St. Louis reporters, John Mozeliak said the Cardinals were hit hard on their left-handed hitters, specifically Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson, and Lars Nootbaar. And if that's the case, and if acquiring minor league talent was the priority, why didn't the Cardinals try to capitalize by moving their position players? That's probably the question you have. That was my question as well. The answer, the Cardinals were, to say that they were going into this deadline only willing to move their pending free agents, that would be disingenuous. That would not be totally accurate. To say that they were not motivated to trade their position players or players with multiple years of control unless they were blown out of the water with the return price, that is accurate. Here's a quote from John Mozeliak. "We got hit a lot on our left-handed hitters, but none of the types of offers we were getting for those players were compelling for us to do it. We were not motivated to move players that we had under control unless we were, to put it mildly, blown away, and we just weren't." So the Cardinals instead kept their position playing core. Obviously, Nootbaar's on the IL, Nolan Gorman as well. Both are expected to return to the club, though, at some point during this upcoming road trip. 3 games against the Padres, 3 games against the Dodgers. But let's go back to why the Cardinals didn't trade their players. We knew that Brendan Donovan was extremely coveted. We reported on that dating over the last couple of weeks. Burleson and Nootbaar as well. I I think this might be frustrating for fans to hear, but as I try to look at this objectively, I think this was the right call for the organization right now, because if you're Chaim Bloom, don't you want to make those decisions? This is your roster. This will not be John Mozeliak's roster come October. I think if you are going to be the president of baseball operations for this 2026 roster, it should be your final call on which players go and which players stay and what the return is. I am not at all suggesting that Chaim Bloom was not involved in that process. I know for a fact that that's incorrect. He was in the room with John Mozeliak offering different input on the returns. Mo, as the current president of baseball operations, ultimately made the final say. But to say that Chaim Bloom had no say in this process, that's incorrect. If the Cardinals are going to look to trade some of these players, because history suggests that they will not pay these players when they get to their final years of arbitration, that should be a Chaim Bloom decision. And Mo kind of hinted that. Derek Gould of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch asked a really good question about the Cardinals maybe missing an opportunity to alleviate some of their logjam on the roster with all these position players. They had an opportunity to capitalize again on the seller's market, chose not to. Mo said it was a good question. Here's his answer. Maybe we reflect on this a little bit more in the sense of what does this really mean for next year? When the question was asked if we were not willing to move players under control, the answer is the timing wasn't now. He also went on to say that with Gorman and Nootbaar on the IL, it was just a little complicated. But this sentence was telling to me, quote, the question is a good one and one that will ultimately be resolved probably over the next 6 months. To me, that's foreshadowing that this offseason will be when the Cardinals really start to entertain the value, perceived value, I should say, of players like Burleson, Donovan, Nootbaar, Gorman. So that is the organization's answer. We can debate if that was the right decision or the wrong decision. I know plenty of you have said if the Cardinals were going to sell, they might as well have gone all the way. It kind of feels like a half in, half out effort to trade only rental relievers. I can see that side. I can also see the organization saying, let's just wait and see what we can do in the offseason. It's a very weird time when you essentially have two general managers in the same organization. But I think most fans would agree that if this is going to be Chaim Bloom's roster next year, he should be making the roster decisions. Questions about this year's roster. The biggest one, who's left to pitch? Obviously, the Cardinals will need to fill 3 spots on their active roster. Their top 3 relievers are out of here. We asked Mo what the Cardinals could do, who's coming up, who's going to take over the closer role. The Cardinals are still figuring that out. Manager Ollie Marmol has options, but none of them really all that experienced. And I am not envious of the position he and Dusty Blake are going to be in over the final 2 months of the season. When you think about how valuable Helsley, Maton, Matz were for the 7th, 8th, 9th innings, it gets a little dicey real quick. Let's look at the options currently on the active roster. I asked John Mozeliak, who is the front runner to close? He did not specifically say that Jojo Romero would be the closer, but he did identify Romero as someone who is going to see high leverage opportunities increase. I'm a little surprised Romero wasn't moved, to be honest, but Cardinals got to have someone for the 9th, I guess. Riley O'Brien, Gordon Graceffo, also identified by Mo as guys that will see their roles increase. The Cardinals have used Kyle Leahy sporadically in high leverage. He can handle it. We'll see that as well. Ryan Fernandez is in AAA. We know how his April went with the major league club. Not great. But credit to Fernandez. He's had a major turnaround in Memphis. He has, I believe, a 3.12 ERA, over 40 appearances, and a strikeout rate of over 12 strikeouts for each 9 innings. So that's encouraging. Not official, but it's pretty much a lock that we'll see him on Friday in San Diego. 2 more spots are open. We'll see how that goes. I asked Mo if the Cardinals could do a closer by committee, and he said basically they're still trying to figure that out. We will see opportunity for plenty of these relievers. How that opportunity goes, what that means for late innings, I don't know. The Cardinals, when they sold in 2023, didn't really have a lot to offer in their bullpen. They finished the season 20 games under 500. I don't think it's going to get that bad. At least I really hope not. But if anything, the Cardinals are going to be able to answer some questions about who they can count on for 2026 based on how several of these relievers step up. We could see Chris Roycroft. Andre Granillo is a sure bet to come back to the organization once he's eligible to be recalled. He was optioned on Monday. Cardinals without John King for a while. He went on the injured list on Tuesday with a left oblique strain. That I'll say this about the Cardinals. That was their first active major league pitching injury all season. And that took place on July 30th, and it wasn't even an arm injury. That is a little bit of luck, but also a huge testament to Dusty Blake, Ollie Marmol, the Cardinals training staff, and the Cardinals medical staff for keeping their arms healthy. That's just an insane run to go through April, May, June, July, 4 months without a pitching injury. That's pretty significant. So yeah, who's going to pitch? We don't know. We'll find out on Friday. Couple more trade deadline questions for you, some wrap-ups. We got to hear from our sponsors at DraftKings first. We'll be right back. Nothing beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching baseball, and the simplest way to get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6. And right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code FOUL, that's code FOUL, for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
We heard the word runway way too often over the first half of the season. Get ready for our new word. It's opportunity. The Cardinals' chance to extend opportunity to multiple players is not just limited to the bullpen. We'll see that throughout the roster. It's already started. Ivan Herrera, as we talked about last episode, will see considerable time in left field this year. Mozeliak identified Nolan Gorman. I'm losing it, guys. I'm losing it. Mozeliak identified Nolan Gorman as someone that they would really like to continue seeing opportunity for. What that means for Nolan Arenado remains to be seen. I will say this. The Cardinals aren't going to platoon him, okay? They're just not. You don't platoon someone that you still owe $40 million to. But it is an opportunity for the Cardinals to get creative and get Gorman more opportunity when he comes back. Thomas the JC will see some time. Still working on Jordan Walker. His at-bats have been really encouraging since he came off the IL. A lot of hard contact. The swing path is much better. So, hey, silver linings, I guess. And we'll continue to see that throughout the second half. So I know it's disappointing, guys. This is maybe how we thought the season would go, but it doesn't make it any easier when your team is essentially out of it before August. So I hear you. I sympathize with you. And one thing I do want to say before we sign off, we'll do two. A little story about what it's like to be a beat writer. And I'm not asking for sympathy here. I just want you guys to laugh at me. So the Cardinals, as we know, had a night game on Wednesday on trade deadline eve against the Marlins and an off day in San Diego. The best thing that can happen as a baseball writer is trade deadline falling on a team off day. So unfortunately for St. Louis writers, that off day was a travel day. I decided I did not want to risk flying on deadline day because I didn't want to miss any trades. I wanted to be in the best possible position if any of these things went down. We all know it's a big deal. I know I had a big responsibility to get this information out to you guys. It's my job. So I thought, well, I might as well just call an audible, skip Wednesday's game, which I don't like doing, but the trade deadline takes priority, and try to fly Wednesday night and stay ahead of the game. And I was 4 minutes into my flight. I was like basically flying over the Gateway Arch when the Ryan Helsley trade went down. So that really just was fun. That was a great experience. My plane touched down as the Steven Matz trade was coming to fruition. So of the 3 trades the Cardinals made, 2 happened when I was in the air, and that's why we don't plan. That's baseball. I tried my best. Whatever. I will say this about the 3 players traded, whether it's Ryan Helsley, Steven Matz, Phil Maton. All 3 were really good Cardinals. We'll start with Maton. I know he wasn't here very long, but the difference that he made in this Cardinals clubhouse, when you ask anyone, whether it's a reliever like Helsley, whether it's a veteran like Matz or a rookie like Kyle Leahy, all had incredible things to say about Maton. Just a true leader inside that clubhouse. I remember I had a conversation with Kyle Leahy about Maton, helping him become more prepared. He said he learned a lot about how to scout hitters, how to go into his work and do his everyday routine. He was a really good Cardinal total pro to work with. I said this on last week's or yesterday's show. I think the Cardinals should consider bringing him back next year as a free agent. I know he did not want to leave St. Louis and enjoyed his time here. Steven Matz, I don't know how fondly that contract will be remembered, but I will say in his final season, he stayed healthy and he was a pivotal member in that bullpen. And I know that meant a lot to him. I know that he came into the 2025 season disappointed how his Cardinals tenure went down. Felt like when a team brings you in for free agency, you want to do your best to show that you were worth it. And the first 3 seasons he spent injured and not able to perform. And that wore on him. That really kind of rubbed him the wrong way. And I know he really tried to stay healthy this year and do his best and perform well for the team. And he did. He was a great Cardinal in the clubhouse. He was voted by the clubhouse for the St. Louis Baseball Writers Dinner Darryl Kyle Award. That's the highest honor a clubhouse can give its player. Did a lot of good things for the community, was always out there pregame, batting practice, signing autographs for kids, having his charity come out and bring people to the ballpark. And then Ryan Helsley. Ryan Helsley was one of 4 players still remaining from my first season, the 2021 club. And from day one, he had been nothing but a pro. Easy to work with. It's hard when you have a player like Helsley who grew up a Cardinals fan, drafted by the team in 2015, the longest tenured Cardinal, grew up watching Wainwright, Molina, Pujols, didn't want to leave. It's hard when you know that he has to. And he handled the past 9 months of trade speculation, honestly, about as well as anyone could. He was a great Cardinal. I know he'll be remembered fondly. But I want to just credit all 3 of those guys for being total pros during their stints as Cardinals. They'll be missed, I think, by the organization. And wish them all the best with their new adventures. Don't forget, Cardinal Territory shop is open. Go check out your first look at our new merch. I'm excited to spend my paycheck at the store. Maybe we'll do a giveaway. We should do a giveaway, huh? Okay, I'll work on that. But not after tonight, in which I'm going to go get a margarita because that's the least I deserve tonight. Thanks as all for watching. I know you guys have been waiting patiently for this episode. I got to it as soon as I could. We'll break down more things. I'll probably have one out for you tomorrow about once we know the roster moves. Happy deadline, guys. It's unfortunately probably going to be the most exciting day of the second half here. Hey, but you know what? We're going to get through the next 2 months together. Thanks as always for supporting Cardinal Territory, for caring what I have to say. You can read more of Cardinals. Where'd it go? There we go. Everything Cardinals trade deadline related here at The Athletic. Our staff is going absolutely crazy with all 30 teams. So subscribe if you haven't already. It's $2 a month. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Have a great Thursday night. We'll talk again Friday where the Cardinals kick off a 3-game set against the Padres. Hopefully no drama, but we'll see. As we recall earlier last week, that wasn't exactly the case. All right, this was another episode, your trade deadline recap for 2025. I'm Katie Wu. We'll talk over the weekend. Thanks as always for watching.